from Bangalore, and I am delighted to have with me one of stalwarts in the technical communication or in the technical writing profession that we are in. Um, Mr. Suyod Ketkar does not require any introduction. When you speak about technical writing, when you speak about writing, he's the one that most people actually associate with, and I'm delighted to have him with me today on my podcast. As you know that I've been doing this podcast, meeting people from various walks of life, technical writing being the background that I come from. So it's natural that I am going to meet a lot of my old friends, and I'm so delighted that the moment I pinged him, he said, "Of course, let's do it." So let's start off. So welcome, Syog, and let's start off with a quick round of introduction for you. So he's a TechCom certified technical communicator and content designer. He turns complex technical information into intuitive user-first experiences that feel effortless and accomplishing. He's passionate advocate of content design and storytelling, and he specializes in making documentation disappear so users can simply succeed. He holds a master's in degree in technical communication and localization from the University of Strasbourg, France. He is the author of two books, The Right Stride, A Conversation with Your Writing Self, published in 2017, and The Dogfight and the Lone Peacekeeper, 2021. His articles have been published in various mediums for that matter, STC, PMI, TWT, and CIDM, and poems. So we have a poet, Amit Zatz, who have written close to 100, have appeared in national and international magazines and anthologies. When he's not buried in books and information, you will find him collecting fountain pens or being an award-winning dad. He has spoken at STC India annual conferences, and Gujarat Online Conference, TWT Ahmedabad, city-specific conferences, and online conferences on AI. His website and his LinkedIn bio are there for you to see. So thank you, Siok. I'm absolutely delighted to have you with us. And I feel I know you from a long period of time, though we get to meet uh, not very regularly. But thank
True.
you for doing this.
Thank
So
you
I'll
for
start off.
inviting me for this conversation. Delighted to be here.
Thank you, so. So I'll start off straight away, Sayok.
Yes, please.
So I went and visited your profile on LinkedIn, and I saw a lot of stuff written over here. My first question to you would be, if I remove your title, how would you describe what you really do?
Titles are temporary. It doesn't matter when you focus on creating value. Um, then again, when it comes to value, it depends on who's defining it for you. So for example, your product's perspective, your value, it lies in how accurately and thoroughly comprehensively you are able to describe the way your product is supposed to work. From your organization's perspective, your value is determined by how easy you can make your content consumable, how effortless it is to consume, or how effortless or easy it is to sell to the users. And then from users' perspective, your value is determined by how accurately you can understand their pain points. So then if you, for example, figuratively remove my title, you would most likely find a person who focuses on creating value such that the end result becomes easier to find, easier to consume, easier to sell, and which in turn empowers the users. I hope I answered your question,
Excellent,
Rajdeep.
excellent answer. So to carry on that, I saw you put up a poster on LinkedIn, uh, and it
Yeah,
reads something
imagining.
like, "Imagining is
Yeah.
easy, writing it is harder." And I love doing both the jobs. Um, can you explain it to me what it means?
It's more of a kind of a joke, personal joke. I've often come across people who say writing is easy, anybody can do it.
Mm.
The truth is far from it. In fact, yes, I might agree to an extent that writing is easy, but because anybody can do it doesn't mean anybody should do it, right? Uh, when you look at tech writing, for example,
It's just like cooking a meal.
oh, it is, yes, it's very much like cooking. For chefs,
Mm,
also this applies.
mm, mm,
So then, if you look at tech writing, the input that you get, it's from disparate sources. So then a larger part of your tech writing profile, you'll notice that you are relying on your interviewing skills. So when you talk to, for example, a developer, they'll tell you how they've designed the feature to work, how that feature is supposed to work. If you talk to a business analyst, they'll tell you what problems the users were facing before they talked about introducing that certain feature in question. If you talk to testers, for example, they'll talk about how they've tested, how thoroughly they've tested, stress tested, or tested the product, or tested in a way that the user might use that product. But then you realize that all those sources of input are disparate, disconnected. And then to be able to make any sense out of it, you've got to connect those sources, interpret from that, and create information out of it. So there's a certain sense of transformation that happens from input to information. And then you use your knowledge and experience and your other skills to transform that information into insights. So then there's this process of transformation that first happens from inputs to information, and then from information to insights, which is a tough job.
mm,
Which is why I say that imagining that transformation is easy, but
mm.
um, creating that transformation is difficult. And as tech writers, I think we all love doing tough jobs.
Yeah, yeah. And all I can say is that try and explain this to uh, the various departments that we have, and one of the earliest perception that I came people had was that all we see is that you're sitting in front of a computer, spending some 6 7 hours, and you are working on one Word document, and you end up with creating, like, let's say, 60 70 pages. Yeah, but that we are used to it, and that's okay. How
True.
So now, Sio, thank you for this introduction. Thank you for explaining me what it is. How important, because, is content design? Content design is also some other another facet of it. So how important is content design um, when it compared to just writing a piece of document or writing content?
Writing is the essential part of it, the composition part of it. But then you'll notice that it's no longer sufficient. Maybe 10 15 years back, when everybody relied on websites for information, reading was assumed. We all assumed that people would go to websites, read the content, comprehend it in a certain way, the hopefully the intended way, and then use the product. But then
Mm,
it's no longer the only medium of communication. So then we've also got to probably evolve from tech writing.
mm,
In that context, content design is a lot more pervasive, because then we are talking about not just how you are creating that information, but also how you are going to deliver that information. So then you are choosing a platform, you are choosing words and ways in which you can communicate to your readers, your audience, or your users. Um, then there's this aspect of the efficiency of delivery. Um, our job, I often say that we are silent brand ambassadors of our organizations, because whatever we do, it kind of goes unnoticed. See, if, for example, you've created fantastic content, it can be any form, any medium, in any words, doesn't matter. You've created fantastic content for your organization, and users come to the content, they're able to accomplish whatever they wanted to, they go ahead, they move forward. They won't stop and admire your content or your documentation. It's not an artwork, for example.
Mm,
Um, and the beauty of it is that it disappears. If it is good, if it is brilliant, it'll be effortless. And
mm,
I think that's one thing that trumps over only technical writing. That's how I
mm,
see it.
mm. Okay, good. So you are trying to create an artwork. You're trying to create an artwork of your document, right? Yeah, it's a masterpiece kind of a thing. Excellent. Um, Something that I noticed, um, and actually did a bit of research about it. I written something about quick reading. Quick reading. Um, so what are the two, three things tech writers should always keep in mind? And what comes to your mind when you say quick reading?
Quick reading in so then I interpret it in two, three different ways.
Okay.
But for the context of our today's conversation, I
Mm,
assume that you are talking about how come to understand the problem, and then how I plan to deliver documentation accordingly.
mm,
Is
mm.
that correct?
Correct, correct.
Oh, so then um, it's a question that kind of delves into a lot of things. You're in a way asking for my secret success recipe. um, I think the two, three things that you want me to share here, um, I'll say it's a smart question first. Uh, it starts with why. Uh, what problem is the user facing? Um, why they want a certain feature? Um, See, it's not enough to know uh, uh, how a feature works. It is also essential for us to understand how that is going to benefit the user. Let me take this analogy of comparing it with writing novels. So when I create characters, I focus on their arcs. For every character that I create, uh, or there is a reason for every action they take. So the arc essentially evolves from what they were doing to what they are doing and why they are doing, or how they are doing it. So then step one would be to understand the need for a certain feature. Then step two would be to look at whatever is currently delivered and how it is delivered. So then you are essentially talking about gap analysis to understand um, how the current content can be improved such that the comprehension increases, such that the consumption increases. And we've talked about that effortless quotient, right? Such that the user is able to do their job effortlessly without looking into the documentation twice. And then the last part, it's also important for us to look at the organization's priorities, the product timeline, because there's a good possibility that those who are listening to you right now, they're taking care of more than one product. So then you've also got to understand your organization's priorities. Sometimes when you're handling multiple products, you've got to one product gains more priority over the others because of the timeline or because of certain mm, uh, feature requirement. So then there are other factors that you consider, and that's how you are able to read a certain situation, read a certain product feature, and able to kind of set your expectations from that product's documentation way before you start working on it. I hope I answered that question for you.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Suyog. I got that quick reading. I was a little, um, should I say, I was a little bit very curious about to understand what quick reading actually can do. Um, so I've spoken to a lot of tech writers, worked with um, a lot of them, and met so many. Every writer comes up with their own. They have their own they have their own habit, they have their own principles, they have their own sort of doing things. Um, what I'm interested to understand is, where do you think technical writers today, with so much of hype or not hype around AI or the kind of things that people, where do they go get wrong? Or what has always been the problem with tech writers generally when it comes to where they do go wrong today in writing terms?
Um, it's my observation, and I could be happily wrong also because my knowledge is limited to my perspective and my experience. So sometimes people might not agree with all the answers, but I'll um give a disclaimer beforehand. I thought of it.
Hmm.
Um, the way I understand it is that a user's need is a shifting target. So you will have a lot of users of the product, and the same user will not go to your product documentation for the same thing. Hopefully, um, over a period of time, their needs will shift, and their requirements therefore will shift from your product documentation. So then, um, as someone who's there to solve people's problems, I would suggest tech writers to not fall in love with their drafts. Every time they sit down to document something, they've got to look at different perspectives, evaluate which one will fit better. I'm not saying they commit grammatical mistakes or they commit technical mistakes related to technical accuracy. Not that. Also got to look at this shifting target and then essentially cover the whole user documentation journey. The user will step in when they are nearly your, for example, prospects, and they'll continue to be your users until the time probably when your product reaches an end of cycle, and then you kind of choose to merge that product with some other capability. But then the user's needs throughout that user journey will change, and that you'll have to come up with ways in which you can uh, uh, make sure that those needs are fulfilled. So then one tip that one tip for your users, don't fall in love with your first drafts. Look at
Hmm.
ways in which you can continue to improve your documentation and drafts accordingly.
Okay, so don't fall in love with your drafts. You need to constantly evolve and all that. And some people become very passionate about the fact that they cannot go wrong. I think also they are open to take up the criticism that comes along. Don't take it very personal. I've always found out the review comments and all that stuff. That's
It also
another
kind
thing.
of goes back to our conversation maybe 5-10 minutes back um, when we talked about this question where I said that people often come up to us and they say anybody can write.
Yeah.
Um, so then a lot of tech writers will agree that when they receive review comments, they receive review comments on their grammar skills also. People test their patience sometimes.
Mm,
People test
mm,
their uh, grammatical accuracy, their uh,
mm,
punctuations,
mm,
and that kind of hurts.
mm.
But then we've got to uh, kind of ignore that
Yeah,
sometimes.
sure, sure. So moving on, we're speaking about the tech writing part, tech writers and all that. How is the profession as overall or as a whole has evolved over the years? What have you seen over the years?
From my perspective, I think it's a funny evolution. Um, Previously, the medium of reaching the users was limited. So then your productivity was confined to certain number of work items that you were supposed to take care of, how perfectly you can write, how perfectly you can align your documentation delivery schedule with the test and dev teams. That has undergone a lot of change. I've also observed that maybe 5-10 years back, uh, the ratio of tech writers in an organization was such that probably for every five designers, you would have one tech writer, and from for every one UX designer, you would have close to around five developers or testers. That ratio has gone haywire now. As a tech writer, you are supposed to work at around 3 to 5 times your capacity. And then you will feel that you're overburdened. But at the same time, you've also got to come up with different ways of reaching your users. We at in our current organization, for example, um, we are allowed to write blogs also. We also look at the UI content. Then we also look at the error messages. Sometimes we also document the APIs. In my previous organizations, the previous professional stints, I worked on videos, I worked on walkthroughs also. So then, along with documentation, when you have so many ways of reaching your users, your role becomes more all-encompassing rather than focusing on just one skill. And then again, if you remember, we talked about the sellability factor, how good or easy your product becomes to sell to the prospects. So then um, there are other initiatives where your skills are then required also in making your product become more reachable to new users. So then you are talking about one person who's doing everything. You kind of feel like you've become the owner of a mom and pop store where you kind of take care of everything from accounting to storytelling. And then you still required to bear everything with a smile, all that
Mm,
overburdened shoulders.
mm.
You still have to continue with courage and smile. That's
Yeah,
how
it's
I see that
yeah,
the
yeah,
role has
yeah.
evolved over the years.
It's ironical that when I'm listening to all this, I'm don't want to take names, but I wonder a few organizations because due because of the AI suddenly, and some they think that all that you have mentioned right now, it can be done with the developers and all that stuff. So I, there's no need of tech writers, you know. So a lot of people say that, right? And when you're mentioning these things, I'm just thinking about those organizations. I remember one organization told me that, okay, let it be. Let the clients come. We will do the documentation. Let the clients come back to us with a feedback. Then we'll think about it again. Um, so Siyog, um, I think you have answered uh, a lot of these things to what I was wondering, to my next question about the
Wow.
skills that are necessary for a technical writer to stay relevant today. Because you mentioned a lot of things, so what are the skills set? Of course, writing and all that stuff, but beside that, what are the other relevant skills?
I would think of so there are a couple of things I think I can add to that list.
Hmm.
The one that tops for me is the ability to think clearly. My manager, back when I started off in tech writing, he used to say a clear desk is a reflection of a clear mind. And then a clear mind is a reflection of the clarity in documentation. And I still stand by that. So clear thinking is clearly a skill which is underrated. Then there are a couple of other skills. One, I think, is the sense of timing. The sense of timing because we've talked about user journey. So then there will be a certain aspects of the documentation that will no longer be relevant, maybe at a certain point in the near future or distant future. So then you've also got to think about ways in which you can get rid of documentation once you're past that time. It's a skill that you develop over time. It's a skill that essentially is born out of the need for that kind of um, triage from your documentation. And then even though okay, so I'll say the word first. The third skill that I think is important is compassion. Sorry.
Hmm.
So compassion, I think, is more a capability than a skill, but because you can work on it, because you can improve it, I think compassion is a good skill because then you are talking about mindfulness, and we've talked about sense of time, so it kind of goes well with that, and empathy because you've got
Hmm.
to step into the shoes of your users to understand their pain, so that you can come up with the right words and the right medium. for creating content.
Okay. All right. So empathy, then that's compassion, the kind of a thing for that matter. Makes a lot of sense actually. Um, um, you I think you touched upon that, but curiosity, you seem to value continuous learning,
I
and
do.
I also do that. So what has helped to stay curious, but like for the last number of years that you have been, you're right now a veteran in technical writing, technical communication, UX, and all that. How do you value continuous learning? What have you done, Sihok? Give us your secret.
You've used the right word in this context, Rajdeep. Curiosity is the right word. And within the shadow of this word, I think for me, what works um, is my love for storytelling. So then, like I said, the major part of our everyday lives as tech writers, we are interviewing people, we're listening to them. Um, we are trying to understand their pain points, or we are trying to understand how they thought a problem could be solved. So then these are all aspects of storytelling skill. And then when you listen to them, you can understand the story arc from where they were to where they are, or they where they want to go. And then you kind of connect the dots. So then you stay curious along the way, along this story arc, and then you become one with that journey. And I think that's how you learn along the way, because then you're not just learning about a product feature, but you're also learning about how it kind of makes difference in people's lives. So then it's kind of two things for me really. One is the business impact of it, and the other is the human impact of it. And I think that's how I stay curious.
Hmm, excellent. Do you also work on a mind shift, on a sense, and when there's one mind shift that you probably have, that this is the way I am going to do things, but circumstances compel you to change that mind shift. How do you work on that? The mind shift that helps you to change your, what's one mind shift, mindset, I should say, shift that helped you to grow in your career? A lot of people are very adamant about that. This is the way it has to be done,
Well, you are a
and
tech
you want
writer,
to
you can't
change.
afford to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And I see one of the things about running a business, managing a business, being a, I'll always be a tech writer. And then if you network and if you have build your, like how my profile has built over the years, I'm also judged. Everything that I'm also judged by this particular thing and all that. So sometimes um, that's sometimes I feel that people just should just consider that I don't know everything. I'm a learner, right?
That's a good starting
I
point
want
for
to,
sure.
yeah, I want to just be, be at a conference or somewhere. I just want to sit. I'm not saying that I don't get chance to actually attend conferences and all that stuff much because of two small kids in the family and, the work schedule, my trainings and all that stuff. But I just want to sit there and they say like, see, this person knows. If he's training guys, this person is saying. So what I'm trying to ask you, Suyok, what's that one shift that has helped you to grow in your career?
I think over the years, I've become more accommodating.
Mm,
I've become more willing to listen to people,
mm,
willing to understand their perspective, and willing to make mistakes. I've become, if I were to use that word, I've become more shameless with making mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes, but it is not okay to not overcome them, and it is
mm,
not okay to keep recurring the same mistakes.
mm,
Um, so then, compassion is
mm,
essentially something that comes to my mind right now when I say I've become more accommodating to people's requests, their needs, their wants and desires. That's one thing that has continued to stay with me. ever since day one. I assumed that I didn't know everything, and I definitely now also don't know more than I don't know, and I probably will never will. So then, uh, that's probably the mindset shift that you are talking about.
Correct. And you have to be very careful when you say wants and desires in the department. Their perception of wants and desires are very difficult.
In line of difference.
Yeah, in line of thought. All right, so can you give me a couple of give the viewers couple of tips? Most of the audiences that we have in the podcast, generally what I have come to senior management or technical writers and all that. Give us a couple of tips that helps writers, and it could be on the overall DDLC life cycle from the content development to publishing from. Give us some so that has worked for you from gathering informations from the SMEs or the difficulties or the challenges. It's probably an interview question, isn't it? What will you do if there is an absence of subject matter expert?
Well, I've been
So,
fortunate in that regard.
yeah. So, yeah. So, share a couple of tips with us.
You would be surprised. Not you, as in probably the audience. You know me very well.
Mm.
I'm yet to come across a bad SME in my life. Uh,
Oh,
there were times when SMEs were difficult, but they weren't always objecting to my asking questions or seeking information or inputs from them. Um, I remember there was Vamshi back when I was in Hyderabad, somewhere around 2012. Um, I would go to speak with him about a certain work item, and then he would drift into something else. He would drift into personal conversation. Eventually, I
oh,
realized that his filter criteria was family. So then I made a point that whenever I spoke with him, I would first talk to him about his family and then slowly drift the conversation into the work item. And then he would willingly share information. In contrast, there was Sri Lakshmi, who was workaholic, and she would require all the conversations to
mm,
pertain only to work items at hand. So then gathering information from her was relatively easier.
mm,
Then here in my current organization, for example, there's this a senior manager called Drijesh. He's very interested in community development, in mentorship. He likes to train a lot of people. And then whenever I speak with him about a work item at hand, I make it a point to speak about the organization, internal organization that we are a part of, where we train people, where we share our soft skills, we help them become better speakers, and then I slowly drift that conversation into toward the work item at hand. And then I've noticed that once you understand the filter criteria of your SMEs, the conversation becomes relatively effortless, and
mm,
you are able to dig into the key core insights that you're looking for from that SME. But
mm.
then there are times when there aren't any SMEs, right? So then a tip for your dear viewers is that don't always look to explain the feature. Try and adhere to the underlying benefit of it, because then you are solving someone's problem. So you
Mm.
are either making helping them get to their outcomes faster or more efficiently, and the end result is the underlying benefit, not the feature. So then, rather than focusing on the feature, focus on the benefits. Those are the two tips for you.
Excellent. I just wanted to remind the viewers that all the SME names that Sihog mentioned are real, and in no way they are going to be monetized for the podcast, this kind of a thing. So, jokes apart, one of the things that I always tell my students and this thing is in relevance to the, when I was interacting with SMEs, you're correct. I can just I always thought like you've got to break a little ice. You cannot just go them for only work purposes. So first of all, I always and it was easier for me because um, I'm an extrovert. It becomes very easier for me to interact with people. I can break the ice and all that sort of a thing. And then have lunch. I've always done that. So and I've also not gone by any rule book. that which says that you should do this. I make my own rules. I will do whatever I feel that is comfortable. And it may sound a little, I don't know if people will find it a little offensive. I'm not there to make friends. Let's just put it in this way. I'm there to make it do a job. Yes, friendship evolves, and I'm sure your also has evolved over the years. You have friends in various things for that matter. But I have a job to do, and I do the job and in turn of this particular thing. But you cannot go with the preconceived mind at that point of a time that this is a person and he's going to be. I will go. He will give me the answer. Some SMEs test you also.
They do. They
Some
do. Yes.
SMEs. When I started my journey as a tech writer, yeah, there was a little bit of. I could understand that tech writers, what do you know about it? Understood and all that stuff for that matter. When you are young, all these things you have to, again, I tell people that don't lose temperament. Take it with a pinch of salt and all that, but you'll evolve. Not every SME is going to be the same. Some are very good, some they call me up, hey, you wanted me to actually, I'm just releasing this bug, or I'm just posting this on Jira and you will be a kept on CC, but I thought like you will come and talk to me. I mean, I've worked with those people, right? So
Very
some
deep.
people say, how do you do this? I said, no, they're friends. I can easily go and talk to them and get the job done. So one of the things I always tell people that I mean, you don't be so serious, right? Don't be so serious that, he's going to eat you alive and all that. You have a purpose. And sometimes I also see that people forgetting what questions to ask and all that. When I started my tech writing journey, I used to have a Walkman. And Walkman has to record, because this thing and all that sort of a thing. Later on, it comes evolved. But I think if you are in a habitat where you're finding struggling, write it down in a paper. I mean, that's okay. I mean, that's
That
nothing
helps.
at that point of a time and this kind of a thing for that. But definitely break the ice, kind of a thing that will help. All right. So out of the 10 podcasts that happens in today's industry, 9 of them will be on AI. And this podcast is incomplete without the question. So some people say, what did Suyog say on the impact of AI? And you know more than me about AI and all that stuff. So without going to what should writers embrace, or they have already embraced, and what should they be careful about? Copy paste the
That's the easier way of doing it. Although I
because
wouldn't say that.
just yeah, just to stop, because I can see, I have seen some answers of my students and I've seen them and I've just asked them, "Tumne bola hai?" Just- because I know when I talk to someone, I can understand now. That's what I'm asking. Anyways, sure. Sorry, continue, please.
You're right. Uh, there are in a certain case, in a few cases, you'll definitely come to know whether the written content comes from that person or it doesn't. The idea is to not rely on AI, as in, yes, you can rely on it for the initial drafts, but then you'll eventually have to uh, revise those drafts. You'll have to refine them. So then the key right now for the users would be to not trust the AI, but verify it, gatekeep that information, and make sure you put a certain disclaimer that the draft comes from AI and
Mm,
it has been revised so that accountability can then be placed accordingly.
mm,
It's very important for us from tech writing perspective also. The other thing is that you know that you cannot surpass it, right? So then what do? You supervise it, you influence it,
mm,
you come up with better prompts such that
mm,
the journey and the time taken for you to go from your initial drafts to the final version, it reduces or it becomes more efficient. So
mm,
that, because see, the AI is learning, and
mm,
if you can learn from AI, or you can learn in that process of going from initial draft to final draft, nothing better than that. And then the third thing is, you cannot control AI in the way it interprets certain things, because for the larger part of it, I find that it is nothing but an algorithm that looks at trends and produces outcomes accordingly.
Mm,
So, for example, whatever will be found more frequently on the web becomes the more authentic version for the AI, which is incorrect. We both know it.
mm,
So then, because you cannot control it, you need to
mm,
learn to collaborate with it.
mm,
So then, to summarize it for you, it's three tips. If you're not supposed to trust it, you're supposed to verify it,
mm,
and you're supposed to put a disclaimer also. Then
mm,
you know that you can't. Uh, what did I say? Surpass it. So then you learn to supervise it, and then
mm,
because you can't control it, you need to learn to collaborate with it. I remember about 6 months back, I spoke at TWT AI online conference, and I shared my thoughts on responsible AI, where I came up with this acronym, which I think is going to be equally useful for your viewers here. So I'll share it with you here. The acronym is called FEBRICOT, FEBRICOT. Fair, ethical, bias free, robust, inclusive, compliant, open, and transparent. If you can um, use all of these headings within that acronym, refer to them, and then create content using AI, I think you're good to go.
fantastic, fantastic. So I'll definitely keep that in mind, Fabricot and everything and all that. So definitely, that's great. Um, Yeah, so a lot of organizations seem to believe that once the first draft is created, rest can be taken care by the engine. But you need someone to supervise it. You need someone to manage it, kind of a thing. It always comes with a disclaimer, um, sort of a thing. So don't trust it blindly. I'll have a tough time. So all right, so coming, we are almost on the verge of ending the podcast. So we'll have a rapid fire. I don't have a Karan Johar to do the rapid fire round, so
We'll
I'll
give
do
time
it
first.
with you. So I'll do it with you. One writing habit every writer should have.
I've said I've become shameless about my initial drafts. I think that's one habit that people can learn from me. Um, you've got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You will have non-writers who will come up to you with writing tips. You'll have people who will assume you understand technology. In turn, you will assume that the users understand technology, and that's the kind of knowledge curse that we are talking about. But the one tip for your users, um, the one writing habit that has worked for me in the past is that I've become shameless with working on my drafts. It's okay that the drafts are there to evolve, right? So then be shameless about it.
Excellent, great. And Fabricot.
And Fabricot.
One mistake to avoid.
I think I'll repeat what I said.
Hmm.
um, don't fall in love with your baby. The initial draft is there for a reason, and the reason that it exists so that you can work upon it. So then, if you happen to fall in love with it, you'll kind of become mentally blind toward the mistakes in it. You'll become ignorant toward something that the draft doesn't cover but is supposed to cover, intended to cover. So then, don't fall in love with it. Don't be possessive about it. It's okay. It's eventually going to change and transform itself into a better form, which is more appropriate, more contextually relevant. So then,
Yeah.
learn to deal with it.
One software or tool that you recommend.
Tools will come and go, Rajdeep. I think you will agree that
Yeah.
the biggest tool is still you. Uh,
Mm,
as a tech writer, you do a lot of things, you wear many hats. So then
mm,
I would say you are the Swiss Army knife of your organization.
mm,
You can do a bit of everything and you can do it perfectly well enough. So
mm.
you are the biggest tool.
Excellent. Fantastic. You are the biggest tool. Oh, um, you're a poet, you are an author. What do I ask you? One book, and I keep on telling it to every student or writer of mine that if you want to be a good writer, you need to be You
A
need
good
to
reader.
also read. Yeah, you need to be a reader. But who reads these days, huh? So one book or article that influenced you.
Uh, there are many. Uh,
Oh.
from
What would
the
you
writing side of it,
suggest us to read also? I mean, can you give us a list of three names of a book or two names that we can read?
you read my mind. So you want me to
Yeah,
tell
suggest us. Give
you
me some.
something
Yeah,
from within the writing domain itself? Will
it could
that
be
do?
anything. Oh, anything. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So if you say anything from writing domain, I'll quote On Writing Well by William Zinsser.
Hmm.
I read that book at least once a year. Um, from fiction writing domain, if I were to pick, I like the writing style of Kiran Kalap. He's written Halfway Up the Mountain. There's Black River Run also from the same author. And there are, of course, many books, but I would still recommend Halfway Up the Mountain by Kiran Kalap. So two
Okay.
books, one from writing domain, one from fiction writing.
Excellent. I'll pick it up. I don't think I have read it, but I'll definitely do that. Um, and finally, before we end, Sihok, to all the people out there, to all the listeners, to all the viewers, and also people that who may come across our podcast someday and all that. So I get a lot of people who make a career transition. Then there are people straight from college. Then there are people, So let's just say that if someone is starting or planning to make tech writing a profession today, what would you tell them?
That's a super interesting question, Rajdeep. Um, you kind of asked me to summarize everything, whatever we've covered so far in one sentence, in one answer. I wish I can do that. I hope that I can do that. Uh, let's Okay, let's start with the word technical communication itself. I think the answer to your question lies in the term technical communication. Uh, there are just two words, technical and communication. A lot of times people focus on their understanding of um, technology, tools, AI, the technical side of it.
Hmm.
But oftentimes they happen to ignore the fact that the resolution to people's problems they lie within the realms of language, uh, humanity, for example, compassion. We've talked about it. So then these two aspects, technical and communication, they are both important, and you cannot ignore one in favor of the other. That would be a costly mistake. So the one tip for everyone who's listening to you right now is to focus on both words equally, technical and communication. I think that's how I would put it.
Fantastic, so fantastic technical information. Be curious, and I always put focus on everything that the word technical in technical writing is very important.
It is, yes. It
So
is as
I
important as writing.
Yeah, it is. And so a lot of people when they call up, they said, I don't know coding or all that stuff. So I say it doesn't stop anyone from picking it up, because if I can
Yes.
do it, then anybody can do it for that matter.
True.
Fantastic, Suyog. I mean, what can I say? Thank you very much. I hope the listeners had a great time listening to the podcast and conversation.
I hope
I
so.
will separately do a podcast with you only on the aspect of not on tech writing, something else. So we'll do something on writing or on philosophy and all that stuff. We'll do it something separately on that.
Looking forward to it.
But thank you so much for giving me your time on a Monday morning. And I hope to meet you very soon. And we'll have more conversations. And thank you for giving me your time. And thank you to dear listeners for your time also. So please like, subscribe, and share the video, share the podcast with everyone. And we hope to bring more professionals from our industry, from various walks of life. Thank you very much for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.